there. This is video log number 9, I believe. If you missed my last one, I spoke on a blog I had written called Friendship, and you can go find it on my YouTube channel. It's just Celeste Claiborne, Claborn, or you can find it on my Facebook page. Just talking about the neat lessons I've learned through friendships and how much I appreciate them, and then also talked a little bit about the friendship between David and Jonathan in the Bible and learned some neat things from them. This blog that I want to talk about, I wrote in November of 18, so it's been a little over a year ago, and it's titled Intimacy and Obedience, and that was basically the lesson I was learning at that point, was that there is utmost intimacy in obedience to God. And I thought it was just a neat lesson. I think I maybe had known that, but I think that I hadn't really focused on that, because when you think of intimacy with God, obedience is not usually one of the words that you associate with it, or it kind of sometimes stands in contrast to it a little bit. And I think Satan has a tactic of wanting you to do that, or believe that you don't find intimacy in having to obey God, because it gets either all about following rules and you have to focus on the obligations you're under from Him instead of just the pleasures of the relationship, or because it makes you worry about it making you see God rather as a taskmaster rather than a father, or your bridegroom, or your comforter, or just some other roles that sound more intimate than someone that you have to obey, or that you get to obey, I guess. But that was what I was learning at that point, was that there is utmost intimacy in obedience. And the reason why is because we have absolutely no way of obeying Him on our own. So we have to allow Him to live through us, which means we become nothing, He becomes everything. And then it kind of goes right along with one of the videos, my first video I did, that talked about the idea of oneness and the intimacy in being one with Christ, which happens because we die to ourselves and we become no longer. Therefore, the only one living still is Christ in us, and He is everything. And so if that's the case, if we truly are one with Him, there's no more distance between us and God, because we're not two anymore, we're one. We're in, there's no more, if you hold, there's like distance and there's a little bit of a gap here, but if it's just one, there's no distance. And so it talked about like the result of that being the most intimate place you can be, because there's no more distance. And obedience has to fall into that category, because you are having to allow Him to fully live through you in order to obey. Now, one thing I want to make clear is that obedience does not produce the intimacy, but obedience is the result of that intimacy. So Christ Himself, what He did for us on the cross, is what allowed us to have intimacy with Him. He took away that distance. He was the one that bridged the gap, that made a way for us to be one with Him. And then out of accepting that and just receiving it, because we can't work for it or earn it, we have been given full intimacy with Him, and out of that comes obedience. And yet, in the process of the result of that obedience the result of that intimacy, being obeying Him and walking in His will, we get to experience this ever-growing intimacy, because we are living out this life of Him being in us, and Him being everything through us, and us being dead and Him being alive. And so it's kind of like a cycle. It's like it starts with intimacy, which results in obedience, but then in the midst of obedience, intimacy gets to be experienced and grown and appreciated and lived out as we are dead and He is alive in us. So it's a beautiful process. And I think it's missed by a lot of people, like I said, because they are so scared of either falling back into a legalistic mindset that maybe they had from the beginning, or they're so scared that they're gonna have this negative view of God as like a slave driver or something, and they don't want to have that they almost, and it's not like they go try to disobey him, but they put a lot less emphasis on obedience because they're scared of losing that intimacy. They're scared that obeying God and focusing on the things he's called us to do will actually take away from intimacy, when in all reality, if we are truly letting him live through us and obeying in the only way we can, which is through him, then intimacy will blossom and grow, and it will become something that you will never want to trade for anything in the world. And I wanted to encourage you guys with that, to say they do go hand in hand. Intimacy and obedience go hand in hand, even though it doesn't seem like that, but also to recognize like the incentive and the motivation that he basically is giving us when he says, take up your cross daily and follow me, which has everything to do with obedience and being called to live out his will, obviously with him living through us. But sometimes we are scared of doing that. We're scared, or of the verse that says we are living sacrifices, or we should be living sacrifices for him. And then a lot of other verses that, there are sometimes hard to kind of wrap our minds around, because it seems like, it's going to be painful to give up comfort zones, and it's going to be very painful to sacrifice my flesh in order for him to live in and through me. But what we don't recognize is the trade-off that we are actually getting. When we lay our flesh down, we get him and all of him and the intimacy that comes with him. And as we do that, we start to obey his will, and we get to be a part of this beautiful picture and journey of this kingdom of God being built in our world around us. He gives us the privilege to be a part of that, and in that process, this intimacy that we received first and then resulted in obedience, and then as we obey, it gets to be grown and experienced, and we start to appreciate it, and we start to want nothing less, and we start to recognize what we actually are trading in and what we're getting in return, and then how that in the process can affect those around us and draw others to him. And so I want to encourage you, basically, in the sense of the way I was encouraged as I wrote this, to not shy away from obedience. And I don't mean that people who love God would want to just, like I said, go be a rebel and disobey or abuse his grace like it's talked about. But I am saying that sometimes they don't focus on that part because they are scared that it's going to make them lose the intimacy, or not, or too legalistic, or not focus on that. But in truth, it is the result of intimacy, and then in obeying, it helps to allow the intimacy to become more of a reality in your life. So I hope that encourages you today, and I hope that this week, I pray that you, as well as me, can recognize that trade-off, take up our crosses, embrace the intimacy that we already have, and then allow it to be lived out in our lives. So have a good week, and we'll see you soon.